request that they will important issues. Not only we don't need issues on which already we have got issues, but this is a new issue. I have not understood it. So if you could please give me...
just give me 5 minutes time, I will explain you that entire issue.
Okay, because we have to hear others also. So please give it in and we'll examine
Definitely.
it. And today itself...
So one more small clarification. Just wanted to know some logic behind that amendment in Rule 6.
At the end of the day, we are revenue officers. And everything can't be logical in taxation. We have consideration, I'm just telling you this. So we have seen that it's misuse, if I may use the word. That we are not getting, too much of credit is being there, we are not getting anything out of that. So certain action has to be taken as a revenue officer. At the end of the day, we need money to allocate to the social sectors. And if we don't have money, and we have seen, that's why I told you, the insurance sector, I told you what was happening. Hardly any payment. So certain decisions we I know it hurts a particular sector, but we can't help it. Because
we have sent the representations regarding how to utilize the credit lying in our account. But we were expecting CBEC to come out with a solution by way of refund, not by way of restricting the credits.
And he had, Mr. Rupam Kapoor will add more to it.
I'll take this point in two parts. Part one, of course, was what he said was we have sent representation about the accumulated credit. The accumulation of credit can only take place if the value of the goods is lower than the value of the inputs. That effectively meant that we were not taxing the full part of your services, which are being provided by you. If the full part was not being taxed, then there was a part which was exempted. There was a little bit of dispute what constituted that exempted aspect. That exempted aspect still stands to a certain extent. The 20% or the 50% availment restriction takes care of this exempted part. So now now certainly you won't have the complaint that we have accumulated credit which needs to be taken care of. So we hope to take care of that.
Yes,
sir, my connected. I'm sorry.
Sir, 1 minute. He raised his hand first, please. You wanted to say something? Okay, that was covered. Yeah, now.
Sir, connected question to that, and I understand your point of 50%. The way the provision is worded, it makes it mandatory for a bank to go by the 50%. Is it possible to make it optional, where he goes under the 3A provision, which is the proportionate, or goes to 50, depending on, because some banks may have very small businesses which are...
You see, about 11 banks, the top man, they come day for yesterday, they met us, led by Madam Amna Doshi, she has brought them day for yesterday. A lot of other points are there. We are examining, this was also one of the points. Then money changing, that was also another point. Nobody has raised, but I'm telling you, we have taken note of it. We'll see whatever finally what happens.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm from the manufacturing side. I'm from the manufacturing industry. See, my point is basically regarding, environment credit eligibility, capital goods, inputs, and all those things which have been defined. Now, earlier, if you would recall, during the old Moldova days, when the capital goods credit was introduced, they generally said capital goods which are used in or in relation to, which naturally created a lot of confusion regarding what is in relation to and on. Then they made it more specific by saying that goods which are used in the factory. With a general purpose probably that whatever is used within the factory will be in relation to manufacture. So nobody need to look into this. This was basically the purpose problem. At the same time, in use in the case of inputs was not being mentioned. Now with this amendment, what has happened is that inputs, they said inputs used in the factory, and they have put an exclusion clause saying that whatever is the thing which is used within the factory, if it is not directly in relation to the manufacturer, you keep it out. Right, sir?
No, sir, not right. That's why I'm saying.
Okay, sir. Anyway,
I'm clarifying.
I'm just trying to. My question basically is not with reference to input. I just try to bring in the relationship. My question basically is with reference to capital goods. The intention of in relation to the requirement is still there, I believe, which means that there could be, in the manufacturing industry particularly, there could be other things where a huge investment is there. These are all exclusively for the purpose of receipt and storage of the raw material, which later is taken into the factory, and we are not in a position to take credit on those materials which are in that facility only because it is not within the factory. Was it actually the intention? The relationship with the manufacturing...
I understood. fees and taxing the online download. You find number of tribunal decisions on this expression in or in relation to use of the goods. So we thought that we do away with it, we make it simple. The goods you are bringing in the factory for the use. But at the same time, the factory has also residential area. The factory has a lot of things which are for personal use. So these are the things we have excluded. I read out. It excludes light diesel oil, high-speed diesel oil model, which was earlier also there, commonly known as petrol. Any goods used for construction of a building or civil structure or part thereof. Laying of foundation or making of structures for support of capital goods. So the things are that whichever was earlier our intention, but was when subject matter of whether it is in or individual good, we make it very clear. Now, you may not agree with some of the negative lists. That is the point, yeah, because nobody can agree with the negative list. Left to myself, I would say everything will be there. So, this is the point, but here we thought it will simplify the things. And if you are feeling that certain things should be taken away from negative list, you can keep it.
These cycles plus air factory.
Like the food bringing given by catering services, canteens.
That will increase a lot of litigation because now the tax officer
Whatsoever with the manufacturer.
Whatsoever is a very comprehensive word we thought. We never left it at goods used in or in relation to. We used the word whatsoever during the course of a drafting. We thought it was comprehensive enough to cover a wide gamut of the goods. If it's even instantly or peripherally used, it gets included or not.
Yes, exactly.
Sir, my point basically, even though I referred to this inputs exclusion and all, so my point basically was what is in relation to manufacture clearly identifiable as in relation to manufacture. See, my receipt facility for the raw material is basically receipt.
Now the industry is not there anywhere.
No, sir, what I'm trying to say is that the usage within the factory is a must in capital goods. That's the way the capital goods has been defined.
They're coming into the factory.
Not being taken away. Right, sir? So my point is that the material which is actually used for received and, goods used within the factory is a must condition for capital goods, I believe. Right, sir? So,
except when power generation is there.
Only power generation of that is given capacity.
Our issue was that how can a capital goods be used for manufacture of goods if it is
It's an activity. Sir, the receipt of raw material is an activity which is essential and immediate to manufacture.
Sir, if it tells you what he manufactures, will you understand? What do you manufacture, sir?
Civil manufacture is not important. I bring in crude. See, crude oil which I bring in, which is my essential raw material. I have a separate facility for receiving, storing and then later transferring into my refinery. Okay. So my receipt and storage facility for the crude oil is outside my refinery.
storing outside.
So just because the storage, that's huge investment. That's huge investment. So the restriction, that's one point. And sir,
No relationship whatsoever. That is absolutely no relationship. I'm not saying in relationship.
so anything consequential to manufacture, like my effluent treatment. So my effluent treatment facility. Effluent treatment facility is what? Effluent treatment, sir.
Effluent treatment plants.
Effluent treatment. That is consequential to manufacture. So I believe that will also be covered in this.
We have a
See, I think there is you are telling about the crude oil storage prior to manufacture. There is a short circuit on that. Now, what I feel, is it any possible? I am not suggesting this, but the way is it possible to include it in your manufacturing premises? It's only an addition to the license.
The other facility, we were not allowed to include because they said that no.
It is not the part the officer can go and say, here you don't have a manufacturer, you cannot include. I don't think such a
See,
condition.
another thing, you gave the example of effluent. Let me understand the issue. Are you meaning that your effluent treatment plant is outside the factory? No, then you buy it.
These two things are different.
No.
Like effluent is only equal to that.
Listen. If it is a requirement of the Environment Ministry that you must have an effluent treatment plant inside the factory, obviously we have relationship with the manufacturer.
So effluent is covered. Like first question was regarding the receipt of raw material.
That is
your storage and warehousing outside the factory. If I understand it now,
Raw material.
of the storage and warehousing of the raw material outside the factory premises, the expenses incurred on that, Senrat should be available to you.
Capital.
That's what basically.
Absolutely.
Capital goods as well.
Thank you.
The Senrat rule now the change is made that any services used for providing of output service. Output service. Any service is used for providing for output service. This is an inclusive clause, and there is then elaborate list of services which can be also treated as a included. And there is a negative list further. The basic question is that what type of services will get included in the first clause? Like if suppose I have a delivery center at some other place and my corporate office at different place. So if I pay the rent on my corporate office rent and pay the service tax on that, whether that will be allowed as a self credit? Because there is no relation with that output service center which is given from others.
So it's becoming an open house for individuals. Okay, I'm
just an example.
Each case across the board, I did a lot of facts.
There will be some notices pending with me for application.
So please broadly say that what are the budget proposals which need certain perhaps modification or further clarification, and that we are taking note of and we are examining, and as I told you, by 22nd you will get the reply.
My job is environment credit and all that. If you want to deny environment credits, say for petroleum or diesel, because it is likely that it will be misused. Why don't you give only negative list only in respect of those two items? If you say that personal usage and all that.
Just wait for cases, just wait for cases. All these things will go.
Yes.
Just we are in touch with
So cover this services in relation to modernization, renovation, repair. It is but natural to extend the sector to even construction service. Construction of what is covers that are modernization, renovation, or repair. Meaning new construction is not covered there. Setting up.
It is covered in things like that. I'll give you the reason here. The reason, if you remember, in Central Excise, very recently, or even now, cement, angles, channels, and all the things, all the goods which were used for manufacture of factory premises was not permitted as central credit. Whereas by indirect way, the credit on these inputs would have been taken through the construction services person. We have just brought parity between the excise law, a step forward towards, as Sir has been saying, towards GST. There should not be what we call as tax hopping for the tax shopping. So you possibly go in for a service tax because you cannot get credit of the goods aspect. The basic aim is for bringing parity between the goods and services.
But that clause can also be extended for repairs and because it is on record that nowadays a substantial amount of money is spent on repairs or even renovation possible. So
before we close, you have asked so many questions. One more, just last.
I'm repeating the question which Bhavna actually asked and it was not answered. She asked a question that on import CVD, whether 1% would be applicable.
5%, because the conditions could not be applied.
Yeah.
But in certain cases, if you are asking about mobile phones, if you are asking for mobile phones, your question is that you are from Vodafone. Yes, it is 5%. And they have represented that it will be too much because you are paying the other place for the SAG also is there, and it comes to 9% together. So we have asked that some consideration for that, we are examining it. But technically, legally speaking, it will be. I got your question and so I.
Sir, I think I have a question to you. Yes, it's either on receipt basis or when it is approved or when the invoice is raised. Yeah? It becomes extremely difficult to put various or in this exercise. The reason is because as a person who actually pays duties, it is very, very difficult to see whether the date of invoice is coinciding with the date in which I book. Okay, actually, I as a company try to do that as much as possible. But it becomes extremely difficult. Also, when I look at the CFA part, say supposing the CFA rate basis the service on me, to receive this invoice, I would like to consider view on this so that it does not get into a litigation situation later on, just because of the revenue drive. Yeah. So I would like you to consider this in a more appropriate way.
Your concern is absolutely genuine. We have heard it at most of the fora, and we are examining it. As I told you, I can't give you the reply now. The reply will come from Finance Minister on 22nd. Your concerns will be taken care of.
Sir, I have a last question.
That time I asked you to say no.
So this is not on budget, this is on transaction cost. Sir, can you just consider a request of
going for a factory stopping permission, because can you allow all, because this is, you have to go for a GM, all the port, take factory permission, and then only the factory permission is allowed.
The Devaswa port will be congested like anything. All will be factory containers will be open there.
No, I said
from that situation.
No, my request is not allow any factory permission. If you want to do a factory stuffing in the factory, the port requires, we have to take a permission from the port. Can you give us an exemption from this permission? So that the central excise person can come and do the factory stuffing.
This is a procedural matter itself.
Can you just consider?
You can refer it to us in writing, giving the justification, the issues is raised. We'll definitely consider it. You can write directly to me.
Thank you.
We'll get it examined by the customs. Sir, I believe it has to be concluded. But yes, one minute, he has never asked any questions.
Three questions. Yeah, three questions.
I'll count three questions. He has not asked.
From the head of things. I have a question of trading. Trading, first of all, the valuation part where you are saying now valuation, value for trading will be considered as the difference between selling price and purchase price of the traded goods. So what about the certain expenses which I have to
When there is a loss?
No, not loss. I'm saying, for example, I have to also incur certain organization expenses before I sell the products. So what about this? Do I have to pay service tax even on those expenses also, assuming that this is a part of my margin?
Sir, I have a supplement.
Yeah, number one. And
Sir, can I supplement one?
Just take a supplement.
This is a unique sentence. All of you had a pre-budget discussion. Pre-seminar discussion. Everybody is supplement. Sir, there is a
Essentially saying is that the period of 1 month or immediately after the end of the financial year, you would not have your figures ready.
Around 2 months.
Yeah, for about a couple of months. I think we'll come up with a clarification, but more or less the idea is that it's provisional till the time to finalize it. Just it. I don't think there's a legal loophole in this. This is more a procedural kind of a thing.
No, you see, Mr. Ravikant said returns will be filed only in October.
But that's a big enough.
Interesting. There is a difference.
We'll have a look.
Sir, I just wanted a clarification on this difference between the purchase and sale for considering the trading. So what is the point up to which the cost, because purchase price, like we are dealing in imported and doing the trading, so can we consider custom duty and up to the cost we are incurring up to the warehouse? Will it be that taken into consideration while arriving at the difference?
As sir said, we have received a number of representation on these issues. A clarification regarding this will be issued very soon on the value of the district.
One, I am telling you, which we have not raised, we have got it in many fora, that the value of trading in service in case of loss needs to be defined, and whether taxes paid on goods are required to be included in the calculable value. So we are working on that. We have not raised, but I am telling you, this is another concern. So we will see all those points.
So, this one is for a change to Mr. Shah.
Long less something on income tax.
You did mention earlier that there seems to be only one major controversy as far as the budget is concerned, that is regarding the sunsetting of STP. But worse than that, in our view, the bringing of SEZ within the MAT net is the worst thing to the industry. There are two grounds. First thing is that the MAT carried forward under the current provisions is only for up to, the credit can be carried forward 10 years, whereas the SEZ benefit is for 15 years. So, academically, when you are exempting profits at different baskets of 5 years, you say the profits are exempt for 15 years. And the carry forward MAT is for 10 years. That means effectively you are saying that SEZ should be paying tax. So that itself is a apparent contradiction. Second thing, the SEZ Act as well as the income tax has already said that as far as SEZ profits are concerned, there should not be any MAT should not be levied. Now, the goalpost seems to be changing in midway. Like when the benefit is given for 15 years, people have invested crores of rupees or started investing in SEZ. And
like I explained before, 10A, 10B, the STP and the EOUs, what we have seen or the basis and the reason as to why this has been done was that most of the IT units were, because of the sunset clause, were going to migrate to the SEZ.
So it had to be preponed because there is a preponderance of such units or such developers there. Under the DTC, the philosophy is that the exemptions should reduce and only investment in very, the core needs of the country, only that should be exempt. But having said that, your view on the 15-year this thing would be communicated to Delhi. So your request regarding ring fencing would be communicated. But as of now, that was the philosophy. Under the DTC, before it sets it, 1 year it has been preponed. Essentially the idea was to encourage manufacturing SEZs, but somewhere in the process, it's the IT which has already a critical mass and which is costing revenue now. That is the reason. And for some reason, the impact would be felt by probably small IT sector units. Otherwise, we do not see much of an impact overall.
Thank you. Sir, I'm Milind Kulkarni from Pune. Yes, last question, sir. Sir, this is regarding interest on standard credit erroneously average but not utilized. Still, department want to charge interest for the amount which has not been utilized. Now, they have got a backup from the Supreme Court also, which is really unjustified because it happens most of the times that when there are some errors in the law also, the department has the liberty to issue circular notification retrospectively also. But if someone wants to correct their mistakes by reversing the credit not utilized,
Not an issue where as members